Hi friends, I'm Anna Helman. Thanks so much for being here. As a card maker, I know that you like to use ink on your projects, and very possibly you may like to use embossing folders and embossed paper on your projects as well. Do you ever use ink with your embossing or ink with your embossing folders? Today I want to share several different ways that you can ink up your embossing folders to create really unique and beautiful results with your embossed pieces. Let's take a look. For my first idea, I'll show you by far probably the most common way I've seen ink used with embossing folders. So we're going to ink up the embossing folder directly with our ink pad. Now, when you're doing this, you want to keep in mind that which side you ink, which side of your embossing folder you ink is going to have a very big effect on how the results turn out. I'm going to be calling the sides of the folder, the front and the back. So this is the front, which is the piece that is mostly flat. The back is the piece with the raised design that is going to push up through my paper into this top. So I'm just going to call it the front and back depending on which part I am inking. So if I ink this area, the part that is going to show up green is going to be the flat area outside of the pine branches. This is an embossing folder. It's one of two from a set called Wintry, and I'll be using the second one here in just a second. If I ink here, the green part is going to be the actual branches. So you can play around with this. You can do both. I am going to ink up the back for this one, and you can see those branches come to life as the raised parts pick up the color. You want to be gentle with applying the color because if you press too hard, you'll end up with ink also in between those spots on the flat areas as well. Now you want to work quickly because these were not designed to cling to ink and the ink may kind of pool up into spots. But the way you want to put your paper in, or the way I find it's easiest to put my paper in, is to lay it against the side I did not ink and to close it this way. So I'll ink it one more time to try and get ink across most of that surface, and I'll probably get inky today. Now I am going to be doing these with my mini cut and emboss machine. Really like this handy little machine. For whatever reason, for a long time, I just let my little machine sit beside my big machine while I used mostly my big machine. But the little one is very handy, takes up less space, it's easy to travel with, and for these mini embossing folders, it works perfectly. So let's open this up, see the results we got, and you can see we got that beautiful pine pattern on that crumb cake background. So when you switch up the color of ink you're using on the folder and the color of your cardstock in the background, you have so many possibilities of neat backgrounds and neat layers that you can create for your projects. So at the end, I'm going to show you some completed cards I made with some really fun embossed backgrounds. But let's go ahead, and I have 3 more techniques I want to share with you, and let's go ahead and look at those now. So for this one, this is the other part of the Wintry embossing folder set. This one has snowflakes on it. And for this one, I am going to gently apply ink with a blending brush. Okay, I have some finished examples of this to show you here that I really like how they turned out. So I'll pick up some ink. This is my balmy blue color, a light blue color. And I don't want to press very hard because I don't want this ink to end up down in those embossed areas with the snowflakes. So I have some nice light blue there. Now you can apply one color all the way across. There's so many different variations you can do with this. You can do kind of an ombre effect like what I'm doing here. So we'll do darker at the bottom and lighter up higher. You could just ink the very outer portions of the folder and then leave the center with no color on it. So many things you can play around with. Now I'm going to use white this time, and we'll fold this shut, crank this through. I will mention, if you happen to be watching this prior to February 28th, you can actually get this embossing folder, this mini cut and emboss machine for free right now. We have a starter kit offer available where you can get $175 worth of products plus the mini machine for just $129. It is an amazing offer. I don't want anyone to miss out who might be interested in that. So I'll put some links in the video description below if you are interested. So here is the result I got on this one. So the way it looks is that ink actually collected at the edges of the embossed areas. Some of it got down in, but that's, I think, a really pretty result. And it looks very frosty, doesn't it? Just with a little bit of that color. So I could have inked it directly like I did on the first one. That would have been a much more bold result. But with this, I got that nice, pretty soft color. Let's take a look at another technique. And for this one, I'm bringing in the first folder from the Elegant Eucalyptus set. It has this really neat foliage or flowery type pattern on it. And for this one, I want to apply color. I'm going to apply multiple colors here. And I'm going to do this with some sponge daubers. So I'll bring in my 3 colors of ink. I have Poppy Parade, Soft Suede, and Granny Apple Green. So I am applying this to the back side of my embossing folder, the part where that design is raised up. And I'm going to move my grid paper out of the way. That way I can see the design on the folder a little bit better. So I am going to do this very gently. I don't really want to be getting color outside of the raised part. So if I push very hard, I will be getting round circles of color all over the folder. Now I'm sure I'll end up with some on those lower areas, but I just want to minimize this. So this, I am applying this very light. It is going to be a very subtle look when we get done. Sometimes subtle is amazing on our card projects, isn't it? Okay, so I put the green on the leaves. Now we have, I would imagine these are the eucalyptus branches. I am going to apply the soft suede to them. And then we have a few berry branches that I'm going to apply that Poppy Parade to. So depending on the folders that you are using with this, you can play around with the colors. You can apply with a dauber, you could do one color, you can do several colors. I think it's really fun to get this multicolor effect. You're going to see one of these with my finished cards here in a couple of minutes that I got the multicolor effect, but I actually did it in a different way. It's a way I'm going to show you here in just a second. Okay, so I got all those colors on there. Let's put our cardstock in, crank this one through, and see how this one turns out. So this mini machine, there are several, I've heard from several people recently who actually like and use the mini cut and emboss machine possibly more often than the large one. It is nice. It's a little bit easier to crank. It, like I think I mentioned here a second ago, it doesn't take up much space. So if you are tight on space in your craft area, this little guy is perfect. His sides fold up so you can carry to travel with, and it only takes up just a small amount of space on your workspace. So I will put links, I'll put links in the video description below for the tutorial, an in-depth tutorial I did on the mini machine. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I love that. See, and these are all one of a kind. So in a second, you'll see all the ones I played around with before. But I wanted to do some different examples right here with you. And so that is the first time I've seen that result. I love that. Last but not least, share with you one more way to add some color to your embossing folders before I show you my finished cards. And I started to add that to the wrong side. So we will have a do-over, okay? I'm gonna add this to the back again, the raised part. I'm gonna turn my marker sideways. It's basically horizontal with the embossing folder to add a little bit of color. And this takes a little bit of time. I am not going to do this full folder, but you will be able to see an example here in a second of a finished one I did in this same way with some different colors. So I like the idea of mixing the colors. That makes it very clear that you've done something custom when you have the different colors mixed together. So that was some shaded spruce. Let's add some pear pizzazz. And really, I would recommend doing your lighter colors first, just in case the colors do happen to cross paths. We'll do this pear pizzazz over here too. And then I do want to add a little bit dark. I have some evening evergreen I'm going to add on 1 or 2 branches. And for this one, I chose some green cardstock. I thought it would be nice to put this over a green background to make it look extra, I'm gonna make up a word, extra foliagey, extra ferny, extra eucalyptus-y, I don't know. So we'll do this last one. I'm not gonna do down to that end, but lay my paper in here on the other side. Get this folded closed, and let's see what we get from this one. I'm really excited to share with you my finished cards because they turned out so cute. I mean, these backgrounds are really amazing, aren't they? But then once you finish them, once you get that, this is a tip I shared here not too long ago. If the sandwich doesn't ever want to feed into the machine, pull that top plate back just a little bit so that they're not totally even. Pull it back some, and it should feed through nicely at that point. Let's see what we got. So here you can see we get that, and this is the deboss, the imprint pushed down with those colors put in it. So here are my examples, but then let's look at my finished cards here that I've created. So here's one I created with, this is called the Raindrops embossing folder. And the bundle I used to finish this with, it's called Playing in the Rain. Super cute set. I really had fun creating this one. And this was one where I inked that embossing folder directly on the flat side with some balmy blue ink, and I embossed it onto white cardstock to get those adorable raindrops. Here are a couple of samples that I did not actually finish. You'll see one similar to this here in a second. I created this with one called Tree Rings, and I inked up that raised part. But isn't that cool? And it's probably hard to appreciate when you're not in person, but with the texture and the color variation, I just absolutely love this. This one is called Cascading Ruffles, and I'll show you 2 examples. This is one where I just applied a little bit of that color around the edges, and then I didn't really do anything in the center. So you get that really nice subtle look. And then here is one where I applied more color, and I did a gradient. So I believe this was Rich Razzleberry and this was Blackberry Bliss down at this end, and I blended them together with the blending brushes. But isn't that just a really neat effect on the background? I thought this one turned out really neat. And for this one and the next one, here is the stamp set I used for my greetings, which these are some neat greetings in this set. I didn't forget your birthday, I'm just stretching out the celebration. For anybody who might possibly need belated birthday cards sometimes. And my last sample here, I created this with the Elegant Eucalyptus one. The same one is right here, but on this one I used markers, okay? So here's my sample we just created together with the markers. I did this one with markers as well, so you can see the difference with the daubers. With the daubers, I think the ink actually clings better to that folder instead of pooling up into little blobs. So you get kind of a softer, more even look with this. But isn't this neat? I added a little bit of that shimmer paper and strips that I thought was nice. And then the greeting, here's to beautiful beginnings and happily ever after. So I hope this is something that you will try sometime in your craft area and just see what kind of one-of-a-kind results you can get. If you're interested in any of the products I mentioned, I'll have links in the video description below. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.